as well. All right, welcome everyone back inside Wagner Vineyards. Back inside, actually, Wagner Vineyards this time. Last time we were outside, which was fun to say the least. I got feeling back in my hands, but we're back literally inside the wine production area for the conversation today with our winemakers. Got Kevin and Jess. How are we doing today, folks? It's going to be kind of an awkwardly discussion here in that we're trying to have an intimate conversation with you about our wine, but we're all standing 6 feet apart, including from the camera, and you're really not going to be able to get the color here, but hopefully if you saw the message back on Tuesday, you were able to get some of this 2019 Rosé ahead of time so that you could drink along with us. Let us know what you are drinking though. We got 2 different platforms this week. We're going up live on Facebook and on Instagram as well. We see up there on the tablet. If you're watching on Instagram and we're not looking directly at you, it's no offense focusing here on Facebook, but you're there on Instagram as well. So if you got a comment, let us know and we will answer anything you got. Any question that you have, just let us know and we'll dive into it. But first, like I said, I want to introduce our winemakers here, our co-winemakers, Kevin and Jess. Kevin, talk a little bit about your background, how you got into winemaking. Obviously, being a member of the Lee Wagner family, you're around a lot. How'd you end up here in the wine production area?
Didn't have a choice. I grew up in the vineyard. I don't know what age I started, but we would go to the work in the vineyard before swim classes when I was a kid, and I hated it. And but you grow to love it, and as you get older, you appreciate the vineyard. And so I did that vineyard work with my Uncle John as my boss. So I went to college, studied biology there, SUNY Albany. People are watching. Alex and Pizza.
Pizza already saying hi. Yep. Pizza saying hi.
So studied biology, came back, worked a year in the vineyard, and then position opened up in retail sales, which I ran the tasting rooms for about 5 years. And then another position opened up. John Herbert, our first winemaker, one of our first winemakers, retired. And then I worked under Ann Raffetto as assistant winemaker since 2013. And she just retired. And now it's Jess and I are heading up the winemaking here.
What's that like for you? I mean, working under someone like Ann, who had been here really since the start, and now you guys are kind of flying off on your own.
It's a steep learning curve. Ann likes things the way she likes them, and I had to learn her way, and which is good because she's a great winemaker, and it shows from our products through the years. And I learned a lot, and I'm still learning from Jess, and learning just new things every day, and trying to continue what Ann and John have done for the whole time we existed.
Sure. And Jess, going to kick it to you now. Talk a little bit about your background, and then coming aboard here at Wagner about 2 years now, or a little over?
Over a year and a half.
Okay.
2 in September.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to school for design, so completely nothing related to chemistry or winemaking. And I couldn't find a job right outside of college, but I found one at a winery right down the road. It's called Standing Stone Vineyards. And I was there for 7 years. It was originally just supposed to be in the tasting room. It's just a pour, but they needed help in the back. And so I learned all hands-on from Marty Wasinski at Standing Stone Vineyards, one of the co-owners. And then I moved on to Wagner. bigger and better things. So.
Yeah, you both talked a lot about a learning curve, and not coming from traditional wine making backgrounds. I mean, what were some of the what are some of the things that you really your moments were eye-opening moments, like where you really learned outside of just tasting wine or making it? What are all those different processes like?
I guess from my standpoint, I grew up in a fruit central growing area. So I've been surrounded by it, and it's nice. For me, it's comforting to be able to like not be a part of the vineyard, but see that that hard work put into it, and then be able to translate that into the wine and kind of respect the vineyard and the grapes. So I don't know, it's just a neat experience to go through all emotions and
Yeah,
to learn still.
I grew up in it, so kind of seen all aspects of from the vineyards all the way through, and I grew up. First wine I ever had, my mother gave me, and I spit it out. It tasted terrible, but I love the grape juice. And we also opened up a brewery, so that was a way to introduce myself to craft beer and wine. And I brought it to SUNY Albany underage quite often. We had a Facebook group that I can't say the name of because it's inappropriate, but I have a bunch of friends from SUNY Albany watching, and it's just learning curve all around. And then, the best way to learn is hands-on, and steep learning curve when you forget to close a valve on a 6,000 gallon tank and you get sprayed by all that gallons. That did happen my first year. Only lost a few gallons, but I was a little soaked. And then, with Ann was very big into the lab work, and I tried to pick up what I could. And John Herbert was more on the mechanical side, so I pick up both sides, running the bottling line, all the pumps, and try to learn everything as you go.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into this wine here. So this is our 2019 Rosé, which just released this week, really, to the public. If you remember the OCC Cellar Club, you got this a little bit earlier on in the month. And, this wine is special for us to taste right now for both of these. Our co-winemakers here. This is the first wine that you guys made just as a tandem, once Ann retired. And we just found out the other day that this wine scored 90 points in Wine Enthusiasts, so that rating will be coming out in a couple months over the summer. So congratulations to you both. I know, it's not something that you necessarily think about when you're going to make a wine, like how many points is it going to score? But when you hear something like that, Jess, what does it mean to you?
It's a sense of satisfaction, but it's definitely, for me, it's not really about the awards or medals. It's more about making a wine that's balanced and represented in both the vineyards and the blocks, the grapes that we have.
Kevin, throughout this process, what were you, how was it tasting throughout the process, maybe compared to the 2018 or other rosés that you had made in the past?
Just different growing seasons. 18 had a lot of rain. Still a good wine, but less in color, probably less in body. Where this one was kind of a waiting game in the harvest season. It was a very high acid year, but we got the grapes extremely clean, and especially if you're going to cold soak, you want very clean grapes. And we got a bit more color extraction on this one, which we like. If you have an 18, you'll see it's very light in hue, where this one's a bit more intense, but not too much. And because we got the grapes when we wanted to, we could have high acidity but balance. So it's very fruit forward, but it has a crisp edge to it. And really didn't have to do much to alter it. Little wine making techniques, but overall it's just expression of vineyard.
Yeah. So we typically plan it out with John when to pick. We kind of look a couple days ahead to see a cold day for cold temperatures to do the cold soak. And the crew usually picks at midnight. They picked at midnight this past year in mid-October. And then we do the cold soak, which is extracting a lot of the color and some of the fruit flavor that you get. And from them we press. And
How long typically for a cold soak?
we do the 12-hour cold soak.
That's on the place.
Yeah, and also depends on, the fruit coming in. You kind of have to look at that too.
Clean fruit's important. The longer the cold soak, if there's issue with disease pressure, you don't want to cold soak as long.
Gotcha.
So we have extremely clean fruit. We try to plan it out that way.
Yeah.
Excellent. And talk a little bit about Cabernet Franc. Now you see rosés from all different types of grapes. What is it about Cabernet Franc that you guys enjoy and think really shine with the rosé such as this?
It grows well in the region. With dry red Cabernet, you get more spice, blueberry, where this is red fruit, We tend to bring out some strawberry character. Cab Franc grows well in this region, and we can get a consistent product that people like, even though there is some variation year to year.
But we did make Pinot a long time ago.
We made a Pinot Blush. Anne and John had made those, I think, through the 90s. I don't remember them, but it shows the market changes because we went away from them because they didn't sell as well. And then 2015, I think, was our first Cab Franc dry rosé, and it's just because if you go to any producer now, they all make rosés, so it's the market kind of changes as you go.
Yeah, what is it do you think that has made it so popular now? I mean, it's pretty much, at first it was, it's funny because you could say rosé all day, it looks really good on a t-shirt, but obviously there's a little bit more to it than that, given that, as you mentioned, it's been since 2014 that we make it. We make it close to 1,000 cases of it. It's one of our, best-selling items, especially in the summer. So, what is it, do you think about rosé that makes it so delicious?
I drink rosé all year, but I know it's mainly a spring-summer wine, just as the temperatures get warmer. It's got that nice fruit, but it's very refreshing. Some of them can be really light, and some of them can have, a little weight, like this one has a little weight to it. It's nice. I don't know, they're just refreshing.
Any pairings that you particularly enjoy with it?
Rosé is good with anything. That's how I view it. I mean, you don't want to get too hearty. I wouldn't have a steak with it, but
sure.
My girlfriend drinks it all the time, and she'd love a steak with it. She'd probably say hi to her too.
Yes. Let us know. Leave a comment. Let us know what you guys out there like to pair with it. GB out there just pulled the 2017, but excited to try the 2019 as well. You don't hear a lot about aging rosés. What do you view the drinking window as? Pretty much as soon as you get it, and how long do you think you can last with these?
I mean, it's like any wine. It's meant to age. It can age. It's not. We want to make it so it's drinkable now, but it's definitely, we want to make wines that is ageable. So the rosé can age, but like the 2018 that year, because we had so much disease pressure, the fruit was good, but it wasn't the optimum, I guess. So that can kind of affect the ageability of the wine
It's
process.
it's a stigma that you can't age rosés, which is false. And we bottle under stealth enclosures, which seals in the fresh, fruit-forward character that you like on it. And it's one of those things that the marketplace, sometimes everybody wants to buy the newest rosé, but they get better with age, many of them do, and more complex. And instead of just straight fruit, there's a lot more going on. So it's kind of up to you what your appeal is, but rosés can age, and I would recommend getting multiple bottles and seeing how they change.
Yeah, I find that that's always good. You get 3 bottles of something, you drink one right away, and then you kind of you can see a little bit how long they can go, or you can hold on to them a little bit longer. Of course, when you're talking about rosé and the weather starts to get a little bit warmer, 3 bottles are going to go pretty quickly. So you might need to stock up a little bit more than that. A lot of people enjoy the rosé so far. So Heidi has one in her fridge right now. Anya just got some out in South Central Pennsylvania. So shout out to PA and those folks down there who have been buying a lot of our wines. This is a little bit off of rosé, but for you guys, what's this process been like these past couple weeks, these past couple months? I mean, things have certainly screeched to a halt in certain aspects, but the wine, the grapes do not know what's going on, as we talked about last week with John. So Jess, is it kind of eerie that you're coming in here to make the wines and there's no one's walking around, there's not a whole lot going on?
Yeah, it is strange not to have customers. It's very usual because we have the space is open. You guys are watching, you're looking at the production area, and it's open to customers who walk through, and it's been kind of eerie for sure. But we've got a lot of construction and renovations happening, so that's kind of filled that noise. And then we've had a lot of wine work to do, so we've been keeping very busy. So we haven't really slowed down that much.
Yeah, what's the day-to-day around this time of year?
bottling season.
Bottling season, we filtering, put together some red blends that are probably a month or two away, but got to get them together. We're doing a lot of trials, and yeah, pretty much for us, nothing's changed in terms of day to day.
All of
You hear
March.
less woos.
Yeah, less booze, yeah. All of March we did like a lot of Riesling blends to hone in on the Rieslings, 2019 Rieslings. So it's just been a lot of blending and tasting trials, just bench trials kind of to see what we like and what works.
A couple suggestions on pairing here from Monica. Yancey's Fancy Strawberry Champagne Cheese. Yeah, I could see that going pretty well with this. Or New York Style Cheesecake as well. Okay, we're officially hungry now. March asked a question about her bottle of 2019 has bubbles in it. Why is that? I don't believe we're talking effervescence here. I think it's just something.
It's bottled young, and sometimes there's trapped CO2. You can call it spritz. It won't hurt anything, and it actually adds like a slight liveliness to it. Yeah, it's just trapped CO2. Some young wines, when you bottle them, you'll have that. They can dissipate. You can just swirl; they'll come right out. It's not like a sparkling wine where it's trapped in there. It's not.
Not where it's intentionally.
Yeah,
Right.
Spritz.
Little spritz. Interesting. Somebody out here drinking Fathom tonight while they watch. That's a wine that's always interested me because it's just so unique. You don't see a lot of Gewürztraminer and Riesling blends. Jess, was that a blend that you were familiar with prior to coming here, or?
I've tasted it before prior to coming here, and it's really interesting because you get both the Riesling and the Gewürz characteristics, and it's really nice, well-balanced wine. But other than that, I didn't know anything else about it.
Is that one that we? It's usually in the 66-33 range. Riesling over Gewürztraminer. Is that something that's kind of always the case? How do we approach that when we're blending them?
That's a trial thing.
Yeah.
It's the percentage will change year to year, and
It's usually within that, right? But it kind of
yeah. I mean,
varies.
Gewürz can overwhelm, so it's heavy on Riesling for that reason. It's should probably give credit to John Cunningham. He's the one that forced us to do the first one, and then it's a unique wine. It's one that you have to pretty much hand sell because you have to describe exactly what it is.
Sure.
But yeah, the percentages really come down to going through and setting up 5 or 6 blends, picking ones you like, and then going through again and doing the same thing. Yeah.
Excellent. Question from Linda about you said this year that there was a lot of acid. Why is that?
It was a delayed season. We didn't really start warming up. So in terms of ripening, everything was a little later. And we had good weather in October all the way to early November. So grapes had time to ripen and balance the acidity with the sugar. So it was just more of a delayed start was the cause of it.
They get some good hang time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always interesting. I mean, if you're tasting a wine from California versus a wine from here in the Finger Lakes, and it can be the same grape, right? It can be Cabernet Franc. That's the number one thing you're going to notice, in terms of the different growing seasons there. They have the opposite problem that we have, right? That it's going to get overripe. You're going to get higher alcohol because there's going to be a lot more sugar and things like that. Whereas on our end, we're lucky if we get enough, right? That we can get them to the ripeness where we're going to have a wine that's going to have good acid, but not too much, not go over the edge. How is that balance on your end when the fruit comes in? And I guess what I'll use as the example is our reserve Pinot. We get a lot of comments from people asking, why don't we make a reserve Pinot every year? When in the process do you guys make that decision if a fruit is at that level or is not?
We kind of base it off the growing season and assess the grapes and the reds. We like them to can hang out there longer. Pinot's usually the first one to be picked. So it's just dependent on the growing season, what Mother Nature has in store. But we can also, it could be really good fruit. We bring it in, but we have to taste through and decide. That's kind of something we go through it later too and decide. Taste through the barrels
And reserves, just you make your final decisions once it's in barrel. You never know. There's seasons that might not be perfect, but we've made reserves from them because in the barrel they taste great. Then there's other seasons where you think everything was perfect, but the final product wasn't up to the reserve character, so we might not make it. It really, from start vineyard to barrel, is kind of, you make that decision all around from everything.
This blends into the next question actually pretty well because it's about the Meritage. 2016 Meritage is what we have right now, and that's another one like the Reserve where we don't come out with it every year. We wait till it's a growing season that best represents the fruit there. The question, how do you guys personally compare this Meritage to years past?
16 was a great season. 16 was, you wouldn't really change much on it. The 12 was similar. It's one of those things with Meritage, comparing those years that we make it is tough because we only usually make it from perfect hot growing seasons that extended out to the end of October. It is pronounced Meritage, Alex Hyde, not Meritage. I know he's saying Meritage right now. But it's one of those, it's tough to compare growing seasons. I think the first Meritage we made might have been 99. I'm not sure on that growing season, just because we wanted to make one. You'd have to ask my mother on that one. But yeah, it's tough because 01, let's see, 07, 10, 12, 16, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All excellent seasons that you really would struggle to change anything in anything.
Do you remember? So I know the 16, at least compared to the 12, is a lot higher in Cap Sauv. I believe 68%, 60, somewhere in the 60s, which is almost a 20% increase. And what do you recall from those blending trials? Was it just really kind of speaking to you there?
Every percentage is going to change, and it's consistent in regards to the end product. You might not get the same flavors, but the body, the weight, everything else, and it's just going through individual barrels and seeing the pros and cons of more or less. I don't think we've ever had a Meritage that was majority Merlot, but Franc and Sauv will change whenever we make it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Casey's hoping we address that. Kevin is the sexiest man in Lodi.
Casey, I will put your cell phone number out. I told him I would if he messed with me. Casey Brown in Syracuse, single. If you are a redhead, contact him.
Casey has been I do got to shout out Casey also because he's a loyal viewer because he has been here since day one that we've been doing these on Fridays. So shouts out to Casey for that. I've got a question about pub night and whether what the schedule is looking like for that. We're waiting and seeing. So the schedule was that pub night would start May 22nd. Would be the first pub night. Now, for those who might not know, New York is on pause through May 15th. But we're gonna have to wait and see. I think it's really just kind of guesswork at this point. We would imagine, though, that even if things open up prior to May 22nd, they're going to do so in a, not business as usual. So, as soon as we know something, we will let you guys know. Because it still falls outside of that May 15th window, we haven't officially canceled anything. But hey, I think everyone kind of understands that, we're going to do the best that we can to put on something like that. We certainly will do all that we can as soon as we can to welcome people back in here. We're all, I think we could all use a pub night I think if anyone out there is like me, every night is kind of a pub night right now, at least every afternoon. Kind of our own virtual pub nights. But we'll figure something out. We'll have some fun. Even if we're not able to welcome you guys here, we'll figure that out. See, Hayden's a redhead. Of course, Hayden being one of the Wagners. See, our feed, our live virtual tastings, I mentioned it's an intimate experience. We're all coming together here. We're all making friends. Let's see if we've got any questions. Blended rosés, and is that something we've ever considered? I don't see a lot of blended rosés. What are your thoughts on that? Have you guys ever tasted any, or just like the idea of letting a single varietal kind of shine in this manner?
We've had quite a few in trials when we were, when you're going to make a rosé, kind of see what's in the market, and nothing wrong with it at all. It's the same idea as like Meritage or whatever. You make the best wine possible. You get different characters from different grapes. We have a really good customer that buys grapes in Long Island, Fulford, and they make, I think they're up to, I don't know how many rosés, but I know they have some that have Riesling in them, Gewürztraminer in them. So it doesn't have to be a single varietal. We only make the one, but if we could make a rosé with multiple varieties in it, and it was a good wine that people would like, we would make it.
So there's the blushes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we make a couple sweeter blushes that is a blend of multiple grapes, and we've sold them for, I don't know how long, since the late 80s.
Since the jump.
Yeah.
Pretty much here. Give a shout out to our Instagram viewers. Somebody's watching. Hope all's going well. A little bit further up the lake. Also, a viewer from Switzerland, Vladimir, loves our Rieslings in Switzerland.
You can get our vignoles there.
Yeah.
We send vignoles to Switzerland. It's a sweet white, but we do sell one wine in Switzerland.
Well, there you go. Is it a lot different working with hybrid and native grapes versus vinifera grapes in the winemaking side of things?
Not really on the whites. If you're going to talk red hybrid versus red vinifera, it's very different. Red hybrids can be difficult to filter and just to. They're consistent, but they can be a little bit harder to make into a final product. Red vinifera is a little easier on everything. But white native and hybrid varietals work pretty much the same. One of the easiest ones to work with, honestly, is Niagara. We typically have no issues with that wine, even though it's big fat green grapes that produce a lot of solids, but it's a very consistent product. So a little bit different for red hybrid. That would be the one that stands out.
Got a question here about what we do with the grapes once the wine is made. If you tuned in a couple weeks ago when I spoke with Eric on the Cab Franc for the Rosé Cab Franc, those grapes actually go into our Franc and Weizen beer over on the Wagner Valley Brewing side, which is really cool and a really great thing to do is get some of that, have some rosé as well, and kind of pick up on the notes. I know also it does go back into composting also, so we can kind of reuse in one way, once they're at the end of their life cycle. Anything else that I'm missing, guys, on your end that grapes might be useful?
Press skins and everything, hummus, and we have piles of it that can be spread for fertilizer. We spread in fields for nutrition. We've sold it in the past, or I don't know if they ever paid us, but we've given it to people. They've made grapeseed oil. There's a local company that makes wine flour. Actually, a Watkins Glen graduate where I graduated is part of that. And so there's products you can make. So it never goes to waste. We don't just, bury it. We actually have piles that John Wagner utilizes through the year.
Mark wants to know, is semi-dry Gewürztraminer the best wine that's ever come out of the Finger Lakes?
Is that Mark Wolsey?
That is.
Hi, Mark. Future governor, Mark Wolsey.
He was also asking how you pronounce Meritage.
Yeah, my friends like to mess with me a lot. Mark is Mark. No, anyway. Mark loves the converts. Semi. He loves everything. He's a big fan of the Doppel. Casey doesn't like him when he drinks the Doppel. That's all right. But Mark's a good time. Mark's has a great time at pub nights, life of the party. But he's a assemblyman in New York, and he's a great guy. Both born.
Yeah. Well, there you go. The semi-dry converts is actually interesting. It's not something, speak on my end of things, like going to events and pouring wines. It's not usually something that I bring, but I brought it at one of the last events we had before we stopped having events, and it was, one of the most well-received wines. Converts can be interesting like that, right?
Unique character on converts. It's, fresh and fruity, but it's a spice character to it. Makes it very food friendly. That's why people love to bring it to Thanksgiving. Very versatile wine, and we make two versions. I prefer the dry, but the semi has a little bit more spice character, floral, real easy to drink. So yeah, Mark's not wrong. It's a great wine. Mark's never wrong. Did I say vote for Mark? Vote for Mark.
Excellent. I want to talk a little bit about, wines other than Riesling here in the Finger Lakes. I mean, I think, for a long time, that's kind of what the Finger Lakes has been known for. And maybe we can talk about the brother of Rosé of Cabernet Franc, maybe the regular Cabernet Franc is also starting to kind of gain that recognition. What else, Jess, do you see as, those potential wines that can help maybe define a region? I mean, that kind of puts it in a very grandiose term, but what other wines do you feel like here are consistently, the wines that people should be seeking out?
I mean, I think there's a lot of different varieties grown in the Finger Lakes, but Chardonnay is also something that everybody grows, and it's very flexible, versatile. You can make different styles, and it can be very nice wine.
I want to come and check.
But the other varietal that I think is more opportunity is Separavi. I worked a little bit with Separavi at Standing Stone Vineyards, and that's one that you're going to see more show up in the Finger Lakes. Finger Lakes is producing.
Some comments also shouting out Lemberger as well.
Lemberger. Yeah, Lemberger.
Question about the sparkling Riesling for 2018, and I guess the question is really just about our general thoughts there on the sparkling Riesling in that process. Anything stick out to you, Kevin, from putting that one together?
A lot of Riesling character came out, and it's one of those things we try not to get too sweet, but not too dry, and the 18 is the brut version, right? Correct. Yeah, I mean, so it's a little drier than normal, but the reason for that is there was balance to it, even at a drier level, and I find it a lot of Riesling character, which sometimes in sparkling wines you can lose that. Good weight to it, but not too much, where sometimes sparklings can also have a kind of a yeasty type character, which this doesn't have. And just very clean and fruit forward and easy to drink.
Can you talk a little bit about the process of making that? I mean, I know some places will just pour CO2 in, others will go full method champenois. What's our process and approach to that?
So it's bottle fermented. It's one of those things that it can depend year to year. It gets filtered in tank, and it is carbonated to a level. But then there's also carbonation in the bottle. Try to maintain balance with the dosage. Kind of go through the same idea where you go through trials of what dosage you're going to put in, and we stick to traditional bottles with a cork so that the pop. Our method that is used is more bubbles that kind of stay in there, so a bit more of a carbonation effect.
What's the best saborage method you guys have ever seen? I feel like
No, I don't know.
There's a lot of fun saber age fails. If you just look those up online, you can find them. They're pretty excellent.
Work your hands out and don't use a saber is my recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, it's, if you were to study to be a sommelier, you want as little of that carbonation to get out as possible as you're opening it.
Plus glass. I don't understand saber.
Tito's asking for you to smile.
Tito can go back to work. Tito works in the vineyard and probably should be studying or in the vineyard right now.
So as you can see, I mean, it's Kevin has some fans here.
Yeah.
They all got something to say, including Mark who's back asking about pairing vignoles, whether you pair it with fish fry, a ham sandwich, or ice cream. Sounds like an all of the above equation, if you ask me.
Did I say vote for Mark? Yeah, you can pair vignoles with a lot of things. A lot of people will use vignoles as dessert by itself if ice one's too sweet. Pineapple character, citrus. I'd pair it with Mark right now if he was here.
Marge is asking about do we have a new Cable East coming out soon? We just released the 2018, and because I am the PR man, I'll bring up that it scored 92 points in Wine Enthusiast, as I want to do. But is there any that we have after that, 2019? Any come through?
It's not bottled yet. It will be. The blend is put together, but probably bottling mid to late May, but won't be out. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But there will be a 2019, but unsure on the release date.
And how is that? How did the most recent blending go for that? Anything stick out? Or
I mean, we recently came in real high acid, but good flavors, and yeah, it's one of those things that Cable East has multiple clones in that vineyard, so we can really pick and choose and take all of one clone and maybe ferment it with a different yeast and treat it differently. And we have enough tanks that we can create a blend from multiple tanks. Or sometimes, like the 18 was majority of one tank.
Yeah.
It really depends on the year, and it's going to be very bright, but it'll be a while.
Sweet.
Yeah. We're going to give it time.
That molds pretty well into another request we had about these tanks in this room. That traditionally tanks a little bit bigger in diameter. We definitely can't show you too much on the computer, but they go up pretty high. They're pretty unique tanks, right?
The tanks are custom built for basically 2002. I think is when we got these in. They're a Canadian product. That the heights were custom. So basically, we have a peak above us that matches the building, and the tanks get taller as we go. They're all insulated and clad with 3 jackets. Hold minimum of 80 gallons. And the newer tanks hold max 3,500. Then the tank you can see behind all the way back is an older tank. That one can hold 5,600. I know Wagner's back there. So we have some newer tanks that are custom built, and then some older style tanks that are still used. Everything gets used, especially during harvest. In late October, early November, it's likely that 98% of our tanks are full.
And because you mentioned Canada, breaks the morning news. We're going to be something that there was going to be an earlier announcement. It got pushed back because of the COVID situation. But if anybody is watching in Canada, beginning April 26th, you go to your local LCBO, you're actually going to be able to get some Wagner wines, which is the first time that we've been available up in Canada. One of only 6 New York wineries that are going to be featured up there. You can get our dry Riesling, which is a great, it's our flagship wine, of course. So very excited to continue to expand and also now in international, you mentioned Switzerland also, just continuing to expand internationally as well. Let's see here. I'm falling behind a little bit on comments here. So Casey was actually a really good question
Okay.
because he started off by saying, "All joking aside," which is the serious face is on. Asking about the dynamic of the two co-winemakers here, Jess and Kevin. What traits would you share about the other, and how you complement each other to produce such fine wines? So, who wants to go first?
Did I tell you guys Casey was single? Click on his name, look him up. Very successful. Has his own house.
He asked you to compliment Justin.
Oh, sorry. Single, Casey Brown. Jess is great. The compliment is kind of tones me down. Sometimes I'm a little rushed to judgment, where she, takes her time and makes me rethink certain things. And she's taken over a lot of the lab work, where I'm more on the mechanical side. So we complement each other I try to keep equipment running and do some lab work, where she's doing most of the lab work and learning equipment as she goes. And blending wise and trial wise, we complement each other. We don't always agree, so we'll bring back certain samples and go from there. So it's good to not have the same palate.
Yeah, we're good at communicating, so that's really important. It's a team.
Jess, how about Kevin? What stands out?
Beards, just a beard.
I gotta say, you've had some great seamless transitions here, because every time you mention something, that molds right into the next question, because we did get a question about how you keep your beard so luscious. Beard oil.
Who's that from? Is that from Alex Hyde?
It's a wine.
It is.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I know my friends well. Alex can't grow a beard. He's one of the Mannings. He's related, mostly with Cooper. The beard grows on its own, and it's nothing to do with what's going on right now. I just don't like to shave. And my girlfriend tells me when it's too much. She's going to let me know soon.
All right. Sorry, Jess, you don't get to answer much of a question on that. It's another question about the cold soak. So if somebody's just tuning in now, we do a 12-hour cold soak, and Jess, what would be the benefits or the detractions of a longer or a shorter cold soak?
Well, the cold soak, you're doing it cold, so you're slowly extracting the color and a little bit of fruit flavor. I guess if you go too long, especially it depends on if it's just the fruit or just the grapes and the berries. But if you have the rachis or the
Stems.
thank you. If you have more of that in there, then you're gonna probably get some more green or some off aromas if you do it a little bit longer. Then I guess it's
Stay away from vegetal character.
Yeah.
You want fruit.
And then the shorts, not really. It's just you're not going to maybe get as much complexity for maybe for rosé. You're not going to get as much color if you do it for too short a time. But again, there's a lot of factors involved. It depends on the fruit coming in and the temperatures. So, Mother Nature could decide to just shoot up, and then you don't have the cold soaking time to do that. So, a lot goes into it.
Question: if we've ever attempted an orange wine, I don't believe we have.
It's another trend that we haven't gotten into. What used to be seen as a flaw is now some people are trying to make a wine out of it. We have not gotten into that.
Well, we've kind of reached the point where, now I just ask what everyone's binging now. During isolation, anything stand out? I think Tiger King's already kind of peaked now in Jumping the Shark. Haven't seen it. Any reason why?
It just looks. I don't like the baby cats. I'm like, oh, I can't. I don't get to watch too much TV, I guess. Been more reading, but I started The Community on Netflix. I only have Netflix, which that's pretty funny. And then I rewatched The Office. So.
No better
I like
time.
humor.
Yeah. No better time to rewatch The Office. John Krasinski and the Son of Good News is pretty excellent.
Doing good things.
It's always good to see people. I don't know. For myself personally, was now home with two children under the age of 4. Not at the moment though. So thank you, Vanessa. I will bring some wine home. It's always good to see everyone's affected like that, and I agree with John 100% that teachers need to be paid at least $2 million. Now, Kevin, what about you? What catches your eye? You're in isolation.
Oh, just my girlfriend. That's it.
Alright.
There you go.
There you
Just
go.
stare at her.
I set you up for that one.
Yeah, thank you. I
No
appreciate that. I've been playing video games.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. Play video games with hate. The redhead.
Well, I mean, this is, I think what's something people don't realize either on the winemaking side. I mean, for you guys, this is more than a 4-day work week, right? I mean, you guys are the first ones here in the building usually, and some of the last.
Gotta maintain balance. We don't.
Yeah, this time of year we're okay, but harvest is,
Yeah, harvest is
we're
different.
not home at all.
Try to get everything you can in an 8-hour day. No needless overtime, unless it's absolutely needed. Plus, I gotta go home and play video games.
So I think whoever's seen Sour Grapes. Have you guys seen that documentary
I
yet?
haven't yet.
Oh, you got Netflix. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, I got things to watch.
Very, very
Time.
interesting wine documentary about a guy who was basically forging very old, just high level Burgundy wines, and would buy like medium high level Burgundy wines and blend them together and try to resell them as just these rare bottles. And I won't spoil too much, but there is one guy who basically is live on camera when he finds out his entire cellar is, or like 70% of his entire cellar is probably forgery. Question for Jess here, directed to Jess. How would you describe how Wagner wines stand out among the others in the Finger Lakes and even abroad as well? That's a big one.
It's really big. Can you read that?
Sure. No, they're putting you on the spot here. I understand.
Regions.
Just what, and it doesn't, I mean, maybe we don't need to go that far to talk about Wagner wines versus, Mosel Riesling or anything, but just what is it about here at Wagner? Shoot, I'll broaden it. It doesn't even need to be about the wine itself, but, having worked other places in the wine industry, now being here at Wagner, what stands out to you?
I think, the wines were always been made well. I think what stands out most is how everybody's dedicated. At least at Wagner, is what I see. And even in the Finger Lakes, you just see this dedication and this love for what we do. And it shows through. A lot of, if you taste any Finger Lakes wine, it's going to show that. So, I don't think there's.
Yeah, amongst all the comments and questions about Kevin and his beard,
You could block people.
I'm loving it. I'm having a great time. Well, someone's asking about whether or not you bathe in Cab Franc. I think we already talked about that when we talked about the tank that shot. Was that Cab Franc?
I've fallen in cat. I don't know if it's cat farm. I've fallen in a bin before. You get red. It's yeah. It happens. You slip and fall sometimes.
Was it last year to Shauna the tank overflow?
Yep.
When we were pressing.
That makes you can
That's
you
really
spill
messy.
10 gallons of dry red wine. It'll look like a bloodbath. It's amazing how much of a mess red wine will make in a small amount.
Yes.
It smells good though.
I had that once. I had this decanter that you tip upside down and it pours in the bottle and it comes back. And I don't know if it was an issue with the wine having too much CO2 or if I didn't pull it out the right way or not. But basically the bottle shot straight up in the air and showered our dining room. That was a lot of fun.
Bottles can ferment.
Yeah.
If there's an issue with filtering or something still in the bottle, you can have. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Question about trends in the wine industry. What do you guys see growing or coming down the pipeline? I think what you see about Wagner is we're gonna stick to what we know works, and if we're gonna venture into something new, it's gonna be something that we've definitely taken the time to not just know if there's a market for it or not, but just know if it's something that's gonna be reflective of our place here on the east side of Seneca Lake. I know you guys who have watched these other series have heard John talk about the pride that we have in being 100% estate bottled. So a lot of that kind of flows into it. But I'll open it the floor up to you guys if you see any trend that you think is going to take off, maybe that hasn't or that already has.
We cover a lot of trends, I guess is how I put it. We make 33 wines. I mean, there's big trends. There's wine, canned wine, different format bottles. We haven't gotten into any of that yet. The technology in canned wines is a little hit and miss, so we haven't really touched base on that yet. The trend for bagged wine was there, and now it's completely gone. Where some people jumped on that, and now they struggle to sell it. So trends come and go, but we have products that are very consistent, and people like them, and it's you don't want to change too much at once.
Yeah, and I think, you mentioned the Stelvin closure earlier, and that's a really good example of something that, as screw tops did start to evolve, there was still a lot of thought behind the process of how we were going to implement it and how exactly we were, why we were going to do it and on what lines we were going to do it on. So there was a lot of sampling, a lot of blind tasting with Stelvin closures versus cork. As we've mentioned on past episodes too, it is actually more expensive for us to put the Stelvin closure on the top of some of these bottles, but at the end of the day, it's going to preserve aromatic white, a rosé, in a way that's when you open that, it's going to taste exactly how we want it to when it was bottled. It's not going to get some of those the oxidation that a cork wine is going to be. And yes, on top of that, it's great that you can bring it onto a boat as well, and you don't have to bring a cork opener with you as well. Wine seltzers in the comments as well. Tastes like watered down good stuff. Yeah, exactly. Those things. Hey, if it's eventually getting more people to drink wine, we're all for it. Doesn't necessarily though mean that it's going to be for us. That's about that. That kind of exhausts the questions here. You guys have anything else that you want to bring up? Kevin, any more?
Just not serious stuff, like Casey Brown's single. Vote for Mark.
Vote for Mark. Okay. Trying to think of the checklist now. Alex can't grow a beard.
Alex can't grow a beard. It looks terrible. Oh my god. Do I have any other friends making fun of me?
That's about it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they won't read all the comments.
That's fine. That's good.
Frank's asking for using one microphone. I apologize if there's any audio issues. That is the situation right now. In the mail, though, there is some much better equipment that we're going to hopefully get. Amazon rightly is kind of prioritizing shipping of other things versus equipment like that for our tastings. I tried to appeal to Jeff, Mr. Bezos, but we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer on that equipment. But we really enjoy doing these tastings every Friday. So we're going to get some better equipment. We're going to make it a little, continue to make them more fun. So continue to check in. I'll give away what next Friday is going to be. It's going to be a very interesting topic with John Poulos and myself. If you tuned in when John joined me a couple weeks back, we talked about Bordeaux reds in the Finger Lakes. What you may or may not know about John, he's very passionate about history, in particular the Titanic. He is an expert on the Titanic, but more so even on the food and the wine that they drank there. So we're going to dive a little bit into that. He's going to cook some food, which I'm very excited about. So that'll be next Friday. But the calendar is open. If there's other things you guys want to see, if you enjoyed this conversation, if there's other wines you want us to open and talk about in particular, if you want us back out in the vineyards, weather permitting. Well, I would say it snowed last time we were still out there, so it would take a lot for us not to get out there. But let us know what you want to see, and we'll do our best to bring it to you guys. I'll close the way I close all of these. Of course, thanking everyone for the continued support. We miss having everyone here. We cannot wait for everyone to be back here. But in the meantime, everyone has really stepped up on the online side of things, and we certainly appreciate that. So, the least we could do is spend a little bit of time talking to you about these wines, joining people and making fun of Kevin online. If that's what's going to help us get through this, hey, he seems like he's game for some more of these. All right, folks, that is going to do it for us. I'm going to run up and turn the stream off, so it's going to be kind of awkward for a second if you guys have any songs you want to sing or anything like that. But thank you.
Baltimore
Thank you.